Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside The Lock Shop. I'm just throwing out a quick tweets to get everybody sliding on in. We got lots to discuss today, don't we? Thank you for the content, Shane Pinto. We'll get into that as we work our way through The Lock Shop today. Honestly, if you are listening right now at 780-218-9999 or in the nasty chat, would love to know your thoughts on Shane Pinto being suspended for 41 games, while at the same time the National Hockey League saying there was no evidence that he was involved in any sort of NHL-based betting, which I find very interesting. That one, the league's investigation found no evidence that Pinto made any wagers on NHL games. The NHL considers this matter closed, absent the emergence of new information, and will have no further comment. So, to be honest with you, I don't know why the NHL wouldn't want to have further comment. I mean, if you're going to talk about this, you're going to suspend a guy for half a season. You might want to do more than just a little statement. But it is very interesting that Pinto, there's no evidence that Pinto made any wagers on NHL games, and he still gets hit with a 41-gamer. So your thoughts on this, 780-218-9999. I mean, if he wants to pop on a show on a regular basis until suspension's up, we'd love to have him. Hus is here as well. Hus, how you doing, buddy?
I wonder if he has good picks.
Oh, buddy, that's the best thing you could have said right there. I wonder if he has good picks. I mean, yeah, maybe. But, is he a sharp?
Much like, the Ridley bit, and, we got when this happened in the National Football League, we got basically why these guys were suspended for how many. Ridley was betting on, I think, other NFL games, if I'm not mistaken, and that's why he got the full season. I could be wrong on that. There are other guys that were betting, but from the team facility on things that they were technically allowed to outside of it. The one thing I think we do know is that this was not betting on hockey or betting on the Ottawa Senators, because that would have been in all likelihood a lifetime ban. They're very, very serious about that. But yes, I mean, I would love to know what these picks were, and how did he get busted? Like, was he like me, all pissed off about a call in the Seattle game that cost him a 9-gamer on their
that might have been what it was. Maybe that was the final blow. He was also on Detroit on a 9-gamer, and it blew, and he just lost it. He lost it at I know a few guys who just work for the Oilers. And they're not allowed to be in hockey pools where money's on the line. They're not supposed to go to casinos. They're not supposed to do anything involved with gambling or wagering of any single kind. And buddy, these aren't even players on the team. These are employees of the team. So it's extremely strict. But I don't look, and people know where we come out on this. This is the Lock Shop. This is a major driver of all the content that we do at Edmonton Sports Talk, and obviously with us at Winnipeg Sports Talk. We do say stay cool, bet responsibly with our partners at CoolBet. And, if I was betting on how long the hangout went for today, I get it. There's a little bit of an issue there. But to me, if Shane Pinto's wagering on NFL games on Sunday, you're a league that's now being backed by, 10 different sports books. How can you honestly tell a guy you can't bet on the NFL game this weekend? To me, it just doesn't sit well.
And that's why I'm very interested as to the details of this.
Yeah. Don't you think there has to be some sort of related NHL activity, even if it was is there an insider trading thing that's going on here? Doesn't make sense.
That's why they have the rules to begin with. But they're very strict and they're very punitive to get guys to simply not do that. So I'm sure at some point we'll get some more information on this. I mean, they've been pretty coy. It is convenient, though, for Pinto. I'll say this. I mean, I guess and as far as I know, this is the first NHL-related gambling suspension we've seen, right?
I do believe so, yes.
So
which means everybody else just hasn't been caught yet.
Well, and they're able to, hit him with 41 games. But it is important to note that his suspension began the first game of the season. He doesn't have a contract because Ottawa doesn't have any money to sign him right now.
Well,
So
yeah,
he
and I
is,
think they said in order for it to start, he has to accept his qualifying offer. Or no?
I believe that I was just listening to Merrick and Mendez that were talking before I jumped on here. And again, all this information's coming out
Yeah.
basically in real time. But my understanding from the Merrick show today is that he's eligible to play on the 42nd game of the season for the Ottawa Senators. So this, if he's going to have to
So
sign
whether
a
his
contract
contract's
at some
signed right
point.
now or not, basically. Okay.
Exactly. And now, there's always that November deadline. We remember William Nylander going right down to the 11th hour and signing right before that. I mean, if you don't sign by that point, you can't play this season at all. They basically have a pretty clear window to figure out what the hell they're going to do to find a way to get him under the cap. And then he's going to have another couple months before jumping back onto the ice with the Ottawa Senators. So, listen, it's a big, big story. And I can't say that we should be shocked. I mean, we've seen it happen in other leagues. But the details of exactly why he was suspended, the length of the suspension, I think it is important to know. I will say this though. I mean, you mentioned about like, does anyone really care if a guy in the ticket sales department is in a hockey pool? Like,
Apparently, I don't know if that's an NHL thing or if it's an Oilers. But there are guys I know over there who aren't allowed to do anything. So,
well, okay.
I don't know if I could work somewhere where I can't do a little sprinkle on something. It's just it's not gonna be good. Like
something like a hockey pool too. Although, listen, I got a lot of friends that have worked at True North for the Winnipeg Jets, dating back to the Moose days, and they're let's just say we've had a pool that's run for a long time. And that actually, you reminded me, back in 2011 there was some guys that for whatever reason had to step out, and I guess that was what it was.
Went in, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, but regardless, yeah. So listen, Pinto, I do want to know what the picks were. I want to know whether it was worth it. And I was chuckling to myself, like, how did he get busted? Was he all angry online about a random game on Tuesday night and people's spidey senses started tingling? That's a mess though for Ottawa as it is right now, just with their cap. Like, they haven't had the money to sign him. Right now they don't even have money to call a player up. So I know people will all whine, oh, the cap needs to go up. Listen, it's collectively bargained. Everyone knows the situation that they're in. But as you grind teams and, get every last dollar, which players and their agents are obviously going to do, it's incumbent on management to be able to handle what's coming to them. And Ottawa's in a tough situation. A number of teams are in that. And it's a very under discussed part of good management is just being able to handle your salary cap and give you a little bit of a buffer at times for things that are going to be thrown at you during the season.
And get to a couple of responses. I threw this out on Twitter, and we'll dive into a few of these here as well. Pat's going to join us from Cool Bets. He'll give us a look behind the scenes at Pinto's account, so we'll figure out exactly what he was doing over there. Hey, they're transparent as they come. But I also threw this out there. I said, no evidence that Pinto bet on anything related to the NHL. He gets hit with a 41-gamer. So what did Pinto bet on? Wrong answers only. And my God, I got some good responses. So we'll get to that in just a second. Pat Maroon's bib in the nasty chat says, Pinto knew the Sens were in cap hell. He went to the books to try to make up the difference. Can we get a cool bet line on whether or not the appeal is overturned? I do like the idea of betting on whether or not an appeal is overturned. Here are some of the responses to what was he betting on. Wrong answers only. He was betting on the dog races at Century Sports Casino with Eric during Thursday Night Football. That's a good one because they got the off-betting dog track over there.
They've got a dog track there? They've got dog?
So Eric goes and does Monday and Thursday Night Football at the casino here, and right next to the sports lounge, like it's basically just up a level, is the off-track dog and horse racing. So
like the Greyhounds?
But it's not like in person. You're betting it a different.
But that still goes on. The reason why I immediately lit up when you mentioned that is that a couple of years back, I went down to meet some pals down in Naples, Florida.
Yeah.
During the summer, and they have a dog track there. And listen, I love horse racing. We do a lot of work with the Assiniboia Downs here. That's a staple of the summer for me and a lot of people around here. I'd never been to see the dogs racing. It was the most electric betting atmosphere I have been in. And it didn't hurt that it was dollar days. So it was dollar beers, dollar hot dogs. I mean, you just come out with a rack of about a dozen for the table, and the races come on quite quickly. It's certainly a lot quicker than it is with horse racing, but it was electric. But the thing was that I guess and again, I don't know a lot about it. I'm sure there's some animal rights people that, had been involved, but I was under the understanding that dog racing was really going by the wayside. And I wasn't aware that it was still actually operating right now. So
yeah, Eric mentioned it, the Caliente dog racing track or something like that. I remember first time I saw dogs.
I don't think it's in Mexico. I have a feeling there's a little different rules down in Mexico.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. I remember watching it. I think we went to the dog races, the greyhound races in the Lower Mainland when I was like 19. I went to visit a girl I was dating down there, and her uncle took us to the dog races. It was quite the scene, man. That was pretty fun, actually. So,
hey, just I got to give a quick shout out. I'm seeing a few regular WSTers popping in, getting into the chat. There's Earl, Brown Eyed Girl, MJD. Don't be fooled by the Bruins logo.
Yeah, what is that?
A regular FC and Mark A. Mark's always in on the chat. Oh, Pinto bet if Swift and Kelsey will get engaged. 6-1.
6-1 odds. 6-1 odds. Well,
you know I'm taking that.
Yeah, you see those cute little photos of her kissing him on the cheek in public and stuff. It's great. Here's a few other ones that rolled in. Lynn says, I bet you he bet on when Woodcroft is going to get canned. Jamie Nye said Jamie Nye. Jamie Nye replied and said, Taylor Swift appearances at Chiefs games. Big Uke on Twitter earlier today. Clearly the league is unhappy with him absolutely hammering the late night KBO. # one of us. I hope it comes out with something absolutely ridiculous like that. Oh, he was betting on the 6 o'clocker lager label, which we revealed earlier in the week. Lots of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Here's a good one from Notorious Jenkins on Twitter. He was betting on Globetrotter games. He really thought the Generals were due, which is a nice Simpsons reference as well. How about this one? He was betting on how long it would take for the NHL to cave on the Pride tape ban. Ooh, that's a spicy take on the NHL as well.
Take the under on that. The rookie Pinto is obviously hitting up the lock shop parlay. Well, if you've been doing it lately, he'd be doing well. Cowboys here as well. Another WST regular. What's up, Cowboy? Nice to see for Cowboy. And I know we were all worried about that Elks game after BC lost, that the Bombers might not try to win, because I think literally half of the Winnipeg lock shoppers were in on the Bombers to win between 13 and 15 games, or the over 12.5. Not only is that in, I just noticed that that one just got settled and paid out. So if you were waiting to see that account move with the Bomber 13 to 15 win bet, that is in your account right now. I saw that get cashed last night, and be good. Hey, speaking of last night, listen, I hesitate to Barry Horowitz myself too much here because I'm afraid of jinxing myself. But my plan of not betting on the Jets and sticking to other things, the Jets are winning, and it just continues on. What did we have last night? Alex Ovechkin over 3.5 shots.
Yeah,
had 0 shots through the first 2 periods. He got his 4 and a goal in the third period, which was nice. Did not get the Jack Hughes goal, which was unfortunate, but that was the only thing. And then remember my homegrown NBA opener parlay?
Yes.
Raptors and OKC plus 316. So things are going very good right now.
Where do you come out on the Chicago Bulls having a players only meeting after losing that game?
I wasn't aware of that.
Game one. Game one, players only.
Early for a players only meeting. Listen, I don't be looking at me for NBA wisdom all year long. That was as I said yesterday, we were running hot. I wanted to get in on the first week. Listen, I saw that the Raps were playing the T-Wolves. I think the Raps are underestimated, though. I like their new coach. I love that Jacob Podol that they got. I think Scotty Barnes and OG are definitely able to. I mean, will they miss Fred VanVleet? Yeah. But that Dennis Schroeder was one of the stars of the FIBA World Cup. He looked great last night. So I think we're going to be getting some value early on in the season on the Raptors if they do have a good start and a good season, because I don't think a lot of people are thinking a lot about them. And this OKC team, I'm not sure whether people realize that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is literally one of the superstars in the NBA right now. He can win games on his own. They've got so much young talent from all those trades that they made.
Yeah.
More picks coming up.
Getting SGA
I'd like
from the Clippers and that Paul George trade's an all-time steal, man.
Oh man, I'd love to buy stock in the in OKC. Like, do they win this year? Probably not. Although I did get on their over for team wins. But in the next 3-4 years, I mean, that's the way to do it. And we talk a lot about Winnipeg here, with the National Hockey League team. There's a lot of people saying, well, you've had this core for a while, go to a full rebuild. It's easier said than done. What OKC did, though, I think Sam Pinto is their is that their GM's name?
I wouldn't bet on it.
That's so, I think. Anyways, with the moves that they made, listen, they had Harden, Durant, and Westbrook. Really, when you think about that core, you probably should have maybe won at that point, but they were all very young.
Got to a final.
Moving off of the players that they did, and then the Pierce trade with getting SGA, 4 first-round picks, they really have put themselves in a position that, if you can handle a few leaner years, which in the NBA seem to get really lean, they're poised to be like a powerhouse in this league for a long time, even in a conference that is very, very top-heavy and star power-driven.
Wemby couldn't deliver the 7.5 boards last night, though. That was a tough one. We talked about him a little bit. I don't know how a guy who's 7 foot a million couldn't haul in 8 boards for us last night, but not the end of the world. Did look pretty good. Actually put together a nice little run in the fourth quarter for them as well last night. I love it. Jake's in the chat going, Association Hus, give us another winner.
Well, we might take a look, a little too gamer, not anything too crazy, but I do kind of pick teams that I think are a little undervalued and jump on them earlier on in the season. And Brown Eyed Girl says, where do we start the petition to have Dusty call the Grey Cup? Not kidding. Hey, I would be with you. I would be with you on that. Maybe a year or two away, but you'll be doing the West Final, I assume.
I'm doing right now. My playoff schedule is West Semi, which should be a good game. West Final, which should be an amazing game. And then I will be calling the Grey Cup on radio this year. So if you want to just throw on the radio and listen while you watch the game, you can certainly do that. So, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
do they have any stations that still do sports?
It's one of those special ones where we're only airing it on edmontonsportstalk.com, but you'll be able to listen. No, you know what? Usually, it's not on as many TSN stations as there clearly used to be, but it does get picked up like across the country by usually 15 or 16 stations. So I'll call the hell out of it and bide my time until get the bump here somewhere along the way. All right, we're going to get to football, obviously. Pat's sitting there. He's waiting. We're going to bring him in a sec. Maddie's in a meeting. I'll text him. He can come over, bring Patty in. But, Hus, let's get to the National Hockey League tonight. Obviously, not a bad little slate. I'm working on an Oilers sort of same game parlay here, a little bet builder that I'll put together. We can get that out today. But where's your head at on this NHL sked?
Well, first look, Jets are in Detroit tonight. 6:30 start.
Yeah, the Red Wings. Tonight. How about that?
6 p.m. start. The Red Wings have moved up their start times. Huh. Because you always knew the Detroit games at Little Caesars were 6:30 here as opposed to 7:30, or usually the 6 o'clock starts, but I guess not. The one thing that stood out to me, the Jets are favored on the road, minus 126 in Detroit against a Wings team that's had a really good start to the season. Like, does that surprise you at all? I mean, from outside the market, if I told you to guess the line, in Jets at Detroit, what would you have thought it would be?
The opposite of this.
Exactly.
Like I would have flipped. That's why when I went over these lines earlier today when I was getting the play of the day in. Watch for that on CoolBet Socials. I think in my mind, I just sort of assumed Detroit was the minus 126 home favorite and Winnipeg was the dog on the road because I'm not too sure what's going on here. This seems a bit fishy.
Detroit is 5-1-1 on the season, and should be 6-1. And I should be $1,000 richer, but that's another point. We've moved on.
The full-blown Pinto effect here. This is why he got, for sure he was on tilt, and that's how it came about, man. That has to be.
But that was the first thing that really sort of surprised me. Now, listen, the Jets, and we'll maybe ask Pat what goes into this. Because overall this year, if you dive in to the Jets' performances so far, especially the games that they lost early on, analytically, they had some pretty tough luck, and frankly, they didn't have the best goalie in those first 4 games. That was a big reason why they were 1-3. Under normal circumstances, if Hellebuck plays at his normal level, they're probably 3-1. So maybe the books are seeing that Winnipeg, while the record is 3-3 and they're playing against a 5-1-1 team, they feel it is a much better team. That's the one thing that I can only assume. But that stood out to me right off the bat. I was stunned that the Jets were the ones laying points and we weren't getting plus money with Winnipeg in Detroit after the great start that the Reds Wings have had.
The only thing I'm wondering is, I just searched DeBrincat on Twitter, and I guess there was some reports yesterday that he had a little bit of an illness. I love seeing this. I see somebody just tweeting directly at the Detroit Red Wings asking, is DeBrincat playing? I saw yesterday he had some kind of illness. Is he good to go today? I like to imagine that a sports bettor being like, well, I better just tweet directly at the team account. So that could be something to monitor there as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the latest look here. I can't see anything yet on.
No, Weaver said, our buddy Ken Weeb.
Yeah.
Said DeBrincat is on the ice for Red Wings this morning after missing yesterday's workout because he was under the weather. So it looks like he should be good to go for tonight's game against the Jets. And he and Dylan Larkin, this is another reason why it's surprising. Not only do they have the record, I mean, he and Dylan Larkin are 1-2 in points in the league right now. DeBrincat's leading in goals. Larkin's there with assists. I mean, they've had such a great start, and that line has been as lethal. That's sort of what you expect from McDavid and Draisaitl, not DeBrincat and Larkin in the Motor City.
Reimer's confirmed to start this game. Where are you at on that total at 6.5? Hus, you got to lean either way on the total on that one?
Well, listen, I'd love to think that the Jets were going to light up James Reimer. A lot of people will be pleased to see that if that happens. I will say this, Connor Hellebuck, after that rough first week, he's back to being the guy. He's been awesome the last 2 games. And he's a Michigan guy. He'll be starting in front of a ton of friends and family there. So I kind of feel like he has a big game right now. I mean, I kind of stay away usually. Like the under 6.5 is at -120. I think that probably is where it goes. But we have seen, as I say, this has been, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't want to say a house of horrors for Winnipeg. But even when Detroit has struggled over the last few years, there's been a number of times where the Jets have gone in there and not come out victorious. But I feel good. Like they've been playing well. They won 2 games in a row. But this is a big test. I mean, I think we're going to see, again, I haven't watched a lot of Detroit this year. I think Jet fans are going to see a Detroit team that is a heck of a lot more potent than ones that we've seen as of late. But Connor Hellebuck can be the kryptonite to that scoring for Detroit. The Kraken move off of that win against the Wings to take on the Hurricanes, who were finally at home, Dusty, after that 6-game road trip.
Run, yeah.
And we remembered we were on Tampa at plus money as a home dog against Carolina on Tuesday, and the Canes did not even muster up a goal. That's sort of interesting. And then you got the Boston Bruins. This would be interesting. The Bruins haven't lost yet this year. They've got the Ducks coming in. First game, I believe that's the first game back after a road trip.
Who beat them at home last year? Remember they were unbeaten at home, and it was Seattle. Seattle went in and beat them at home last year. That's right.
Yeah, on their 9-0 road trip.
Yeah, that's right. That was something else.
They ran the table 9 games in a row.
This would be something. Somebody's already, I think the rookie's in and said he's on Boston and Detroit to win tonight. It pays plus 172. Matt's here. He's going to bring Pat in for us, and Pat can just continue on the conversation. P. Greggy, what's up, buddy?
Just enjoying listening to the banner, man. Like, this is such a good time of the year. Yesterday, like
Mhm.
NBA, we got NHL. Tonight we've got NFL. Like, it's absolutely loaded. It's unfortunate that the World Series doesn't start tonight. It's almost better because like it would literally be like sports overload. But just enjoying the chat and enjoying chiming in before I popped on here. But a lot of good stuff to talk about here on the Lock Shop, fellas.
Hey, do you know, just back, we were talking about Pinto right off the bat. Do you know what the rules are? Like what NHL players can and cannot do? I mean, I imagine it's somewhat different between league to league, but I mean, 41 game suspension certainly, I think, opened up a lot of eyes in NHL rooms when guys got to practice or their game day skate today.
Well, unfortunately, I do not know the exact rules. To be quite honest, the fact that they said that there's no proof that there was NHL betting leads to
Yeah.
me to believe that the NHL has more of a strict policy than say let's say the NFL. But then again, some of the other NFL suspensions we saw they were using a sports app on the
Yeah,
facilities.
Jamison Williams was betting on college ball, but he was happening to do it from an NFL facility, right? So
Exactly. So maybe that was the case. Again, they're not reporting what it was. They're also weirdly saying they're not going to say anything else. That doesn't mean someone from outside of the NHL, a reporter, may figure this thing out and find out exactly what that was. But that's kind of the way the NHL is. They're very tight-lipped on a lot of these things, even like the substance abuse program, certain things like that. They keep it really tight-lipped to protect the players, to protect the league as well. So I don't know if we'll ever find out what exactly this was all about. I can confirm. I went through the back office at CoolBet. Shane Pinto does not have a CoolBet account, so he wasn't. I can't find out what he was betting on.
wait, but did you also search the name Payne Shinto?
I did look up not Shane Pinto, so I might have to look up that one. So, but in all seriousness, these leagues, they have to take this seriously. Of course, they're taking so much money from sports betting. At the same time, like you can't be hypocritical. Like I think that if players want to bet on the NFL, if they want to bet on the MLB, whatever it may be, like you said, NFL players wanting to bet on their alma mater, they should be able to.
I don't know why you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. Not betting in games that you're involved in, of course. That doesn't make any sense. Betting on other games in your league where you could have some information, I understand that too. Mm-hmm. But these other leagues, man, I just don't understand why you wouldn't let these guys do this. Like, yeah,
exactly. And each league is different. Each policy is different. So maybe we find out what it is. Maybe we won't. But needless to say, hopefully it wasn't a $5 bet on a 18 game parlay, and that was what cost him 41 games. Is hopefully he was still staying cool and betting responsibly, but at the same time, let's hope that it wasn't something very silly like a few dollars bets.
I don't know if you saw it right at the beginning of the show today, but I was like, Hus, how you doing? We got lots to talk about today. And Hus started with, I wonder if he made good picks. You sick bastard. I love it. Patty, NHL tonight. What do you, like I said, I'm going to put together a little Oilers thing here. I'm working my way through it right now. I'll probably have it to you guys. If not by the end of the lock shop, then definitely right after two guys and a goalie today. But pretty busy slate in the NHL tonight. We're going to get to the Thursday nighter as well with your Buffalo Bills and a line that's moved a point from yesterday on the lock shop. So we'll get to that. But what do you like in the NHL tonight, man?
It's a great slate tonight. Really, really solid slate. A lot of really good games. You touched on a couple games that I've already kind of circled in, but the more I look at it, maybe this is a fishy line. Maybe the books seem to think that Detroit have been playing above their heads and they're going to come back down to reality at some point. Talking to both of you guys, I know on Edmonton Sports Talk, I mentioned it, and even one of the lock shops, they said Detroit's a team that I think is incredibly undervalued. Now I think we're starting to well, not this game at least, but even the one game that they lost, I think was their last game, they were a favorite. Like they have not lost as an underdog yet. They haven't not covered as an underdog either. So you're not going to bet them on the puck line at minus 238. I think if you like the Red Wings, if you think the Brinkat's going to continue to light it up, if you think Larkin is taking that next step, sure, roll with the plus 107. I might stay away. This seems like a fishy line, and Hus, you know better than anyone, like this also could be a Hellebuck game going into another team's building and standing on his head and goalieing the other team. So probably stay away from that. I probably still want to ride the hot hand. Looking at a little parlay right now, just going off the hot hands. Alex DeBrincat to record a point minus 168 and William Nylander to record a point minus 235. Obviously a lot juicier, but that gets you up to plus 127. Nylander has not recorded a point in any game so far. You could make a very good argument that he has been the most consistent Leaf so far this year. Actually, you can't not just not make the argument. You're probably going to win the argument. He's been unbelievable. Everyone knows this is a contract year for him. He really took his offseason very serious. He looks a lot stronger. And I mean, I've been a card-carrying member of the William Nylander fan club, but I can even admit that he is looking even better than what we've seen over the past couple of years. He was the only guy, I shouldn't say only guy, but one of the only guys on that Leafs roster that has produced in the playoffs. Last year, he was one of the only players that stepped up in the big moments, and he's continuing it. And I think a big reason is that contract year. So two guys that have been arguably two of the better players off to starts in the NHL, for them just to record a point at plus 127, I really, really like that one. Oilers, I know they've been an absolute nightmare. Defensively, even offensively, you can make an argument they should be better than they are. At plus 112 against the Rangers, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I hummed and hawed about this, but the fact that you're getting plus money at 6.5, and I know that's a really big number. And I think that might have been your guys' cool bet.
That was my cool bet hotline of the day. I mean, the Oilers are giving up 4.5 goals per game. So
I really like over 6.5. I was thinking the money line, but I think this is actually more safe just because the unpredictability of this Oilers team right now. So over 6.5 plus 103, not just the Oilers, like look up and down that Rangers roster, man. They are a talented team.
Yeah, they are.
They can put the puck in that. The goaltending obviously is really good, so that could concern me for the Rangers that we might see someone steal the show.
Who's in net for Edmonton?
It'll be Stuart Skinner.
Skins.
Yeah.
You got to bounce back from his mishap on
that's
Saturday
the thing.
night.
Like in that game, Hus, I thought, the one major screw up, but he wasn't bad outside of that.
No.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't.
But 6.5, 7 goals for these two teams, man. I could see it cashing halfway through the second period, especially if Edmonton is still playing that passive zone defense, whatever the hell they want to call that. It is tough to watch. It is really tough to watch. And I think with the sharpshooters that the Rangers have, and if Skinner's not on top of his game, it could be an absolute shooting gallery out there.
I may have to put together a little homecoming WST parlay for the Michigan boys and Kyle Connor and Connor Hellebuck for tonight.
Yes.
I'm just looking at these props. KFC over 3.5 shots is, let me just pull that number back up in front of me. I had it here a moment ago. Kyle Connor over shots plus 115. I love that. I don't mind him to score plus 134. And then I guess it's tough to get goalies in on these things. I guess you can just have 2 goals or less allowed. And that way I don't necessarily have to. I'm trying to stay away from the straight money line wager because at that point, that's when I seem to mush it. When I don't do it, this team wins and they're on a roll right now. So maybe we'll do that. Hellebuck 2 goals allowed or less and put that one together and wrap that up in a bow for our WSTers.
I got one here for Edmonton now. I've kind of been looking through it. And, I usually play things a little bit safer than Hus, how it usually works. And usually he hits the longer ones and I miss these short ones, but I want the over 5.5. So let's bump that down to 5.5 tonight. And then Bouchard point, Adam Fox point. I'm getting both teams involved in this. So kind of the 2 blue liners, Fox and Bouchard, both with a point, and then over Well, 2+ power play goals. Over 1.5 power play goals tonight. So over 5.5, 2+ power play goals, and a point for each of those guys. Jake, I think Jake's watching because Jake was accusing you of watching too much Toronto Sports Network, Patty, on the Willie Nylander love. So if we could put that bad boy together as well. Over 5. You know what? Screw it.
Me a break.
You know what? I'm going to say screw it. Let's go over 6.5. I'll just ride with the over 6.5 that's there. Over 6.5. Bouchard point, Fox point, and over 1.5 power play goals. Rangers power play. We had Luke Gazdick on our show today. Talked about the Rangers power play being really good so far. Oilers power play, even without Connor McDavid, there's still a lot of weapons there as well. And, Oilers penalty kill hasn't been great either. So I do like some power play goals being scored in that game. And as you mentioned, so much skill on both sides of the puck here tonight. Let's ride with that. Bouchard point, Fox point, both the big offensive defensemen getting in. And I know somebody's going to text in and say, well, Dusty, they moved Bouchard down to the third pair, but he's still going to be on the power play, and that's where he gets most of his points anyway. So Bouchard point, Fox point, power play goals 2+ on over 6.5.
I mean, if you guys are throwing out your hockey parlays, I got to put a Patty Nose puck out there. So I'll go with the two others that I talked about already with Nylander and DeBrincat to get a point. And I'll throw Sidney Crosby in there as well to get a point, to get a little bit of a better number, plus 235 for those. It's Crosby against McKinnon. And say what you will about Sidney Crosby, if you think he's starting to slow down, there is no doubt in my mind the sensei wants to show that he's still the master. And I think I would even consider probably betting him to score as well. But just to keep the parlay a little bit tighter and not as riskier, I'll go with him to record a point at plus 235. On that being said, between that Cole Harbor showdown between the two guys from the East Coast, there is an NHL daily exclusive. There's actually a ton of exclusives for all the sports that are going on right now. But Cole Harbor legends, Crosby and Nate McKinnon, both to score a single goal or more, plus 415 right now. So definitely worth a look at all the exclusives, including that one there.
Because I know we got to get to this football game in a minute. Tonight for hockey, and maybe we do make this a ride with Hus. I mean, the ride with Hus is nuclear right now.
It's red hot.
We've had the last two have won, and I mean, we didn't do a ride with Hus for my NBA one yesterday, but so it won't count. So maybe good things happen in threes. But I do have a 3-gamer. Lightning puck line at home against the Sharks, minus 115. Going to take the Ottawa Senators as a road dog on Long Island against the Islanders. I think they bounce back after a disappointing game at home on Tuesday against the Buffalo Sabres, plus 106. And I think maybe my favorite line of the entire night when it just comes to value is the Minnesota Wild in Philly. Listen, I know Philly's had a couple big wins. I'm just not too sure these teams have really respected Philly going in, Edmonton being one of them. But Minnesota's minus 112 on the road against Philadelphia. To me, Minnesota is in another weight class than the Philadelphia Flyers are. So I love that. I mean, if I was going to make one single money line bet today, I think I go with Minnesota in Philly at minus 112. But I'm going to put that with the Sens plus 106 on Long Island and the Lightning minus 1.5. And that one, when we put it in, is at plus 629. And I know.
How do you not get on that right now with how hot you are? Like, we all have to get on it.
I know. Auto ride.
I just don't want to bankrupt CoolBet. We've got a lot of I want you guys to have jobs.
The one thing I will say about the Wild is their schedule has been nutty to start the year. I think they started at home, but then they went to Toronto and Montreal. Then they were back home for 3 games. And then now they're back on the road again out east as well. So they take on the Flyers tonight, the Caps, the Devils, and then they're back home against the Devils. So again, just a small anecdote, but I totally agree. I think the Flyers came out hot, got really lucky. They're not a good hockey club. Minnesota is going to be a team battling for playoffs. So I love this bet. And like Dusty said, man, ride the hot hand. You have been on fire.
Hey, and you know what? Because Jake's asking, we need an NBA pick today. I mean, I can't go 2-0 on the first night of NBA and then not have one. Give me the Bucks minus 6 at home against the Sixers. I love betting against Philly to begin with in many sports. In fact, maybe we'll do a double Philly loss here. Minnesota and Milwaukee together. There's an idea. There's an idea for your cross sport exclusives if you want to throw that in. Listen, Giannis, it's good vibes in Milwaukee. Giannis just signs the 3-year extension. They get Dame in from Portland. And it's the exact opposite in Philly. They're dealing with the daily soap opera that is James Harden, who missed practice for 10 days, then just showed up expecting to get on the plane, going to the game. They told him to get the hell out of here. So they don't even have Harden for this one. I love Milwaukee in this game. I think that they make a big statement at home that they're back taking a run at the Nuggets. So give me Milwaukee -6 tonight in the association for those of you that enjoy the hoops.
Hashtag association Hus.
Yeah. No, it's Hoophead Hus.
Hoophead Hus.
Hoophead Hus.
All right, let's get to this football game. Man, it's nice having hockey and basketball back, eh? Like, not that we couldn't spend 45 minutes talking about a football game, but here we are, just now, 41 minutes in the lock shop, getting to a Thursday nighter that is, it's really interesting. I mean, yesterday we were talking about this game. It was 8.5, and we were saying, well, should the Bills be an 8.5 point favorite against anybody right now? Now it's sitting at 9.5, -111 to the Bills -9.5. So you get the Bucs at -105 plus 9.5. Let's start with our resident Bills fan, Pat here. Pat, what do you think about this 9.5 number?
Quite frankly, it doesn't make any sense to be quite honest. How do you have any confidence? I know the Bucs looked absolutely inept after a pretty good start. They're coming back down to reality. It's going to be cold and wet, rainy, windy temperatures in Buffalo. But this Buffalo team has given you no reason to think that they can beat a team by 10 points right now. They got walked all over by one of, if not the worst offense in the NFL. Their defense is dropping like flies. There's clearly miscommunication or a disconnect between the offense and their offensive coordinator. There's now even talks that there is even some, don't want to say distrust, but some inner battling between the head coach and the offensive coordinator and the way that they want to run the offense. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I mean, I can't do it because they're my team, but like taking 9.5 with the Bucs on a short week after such an emotional loss for Buffalo, I think that would 100% be my bet. And with the money, like right now, it's not the fact that the line's moving because there's, sharp money coming in on the Bills or, the public's hammering the Bills. Like that's just not the case, at least at CoolBet right now. So something has got to give here with this line. If I'm not going to bet it, but if I was betting anything, it would be the Bucs at 9.5.
Explain this to me. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm looking at this last night. I was going through a bunch of the lines, looking ahead to today and this weekend in the NFL, and it was 8.5. It's now 9.5, -105 for Tampa. I mean, the only thing I could understand that was that there was a ton of money coming in on the Bills and they were looking to get it on the other side. But that is, well, listen, that's one of weird line alert on the lock shop.
Is that the sound effect?
Maybe, yeah. We just did it. You can clip that. But I'm playing Tampa. I mean, as I said, I felt this way after last week, and why I wasn't on the Bills last week in New England was just that, I mean, I couldn't help but watch the way that game played out, watch Josh Allen afterwards, and not think that, like, this isn't a team that's, like, close to playing to their potential. And listen, Baker's a gamer. Say what you want. I mean, they haven't been very good. Listen, and they look ugly. I mean, they could have lost by 20 last week to the Falcons if Desmond Ridder didn't keep fumbling 2 inches before the goal line and creating touchbacks. But listen, that's a lot of points. And I mean, even it, like, I don't think Buffalo's rolling at a point where we're going to see them up 24-0. I guess that could happen. But Baker's a guy that, can pull a backdoor cover as well. So give me the plus 9.5. I was looking, and unfortunately it's not up at CoolBet right now. Maybe we'll get it there before the game. The one prop I was going to look at was going to either be receptions or receiving yards for Rachaad White, the Bucs running back. He's not listed right now. He last week, had a very pedestrian rushing game. He carried it for 13 yards for 13 times for 34 yards, a pathetic 2.6 average. I think they're realizing that they just don't have the line right now to run the football consistently, which led to him catching 6 balls for 65 yards. And I think against a team that, even with the diminished defense and pass rush, I have a feeling that they're going to be able to get there. And I don't know whether the Bucs plan as much running. I mean, they'll do it just to try it, but I think very quickly they probably move to receiving. So if those come up later on, I'm going to be looking for both reception numbers and receiving yards for Rachaad White. The one that's up that I do like, and it's a bit of a chalky number, I would be willing to bet this at a higher number to get better odds. But right now, Dalton Kincaid, 37.5 yards. Love the over here. Picked him up in fantasy. I'll be starting him tonight. He's at minus 159 on that. Usually I don't go on props that are that big, but maybe the line moves a little bit, or if you want to throw it in along with a couple of other things on a same gamer. The one guy I do like that I think they get going and I think has a big game tonight is Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I'm all over Kincaid props. He's in my Patty's primetime parlay. I think he should have been used for a long time now. Obviously, we were finding out that Dawson Knox is injured. He's getting wrist surgery, but he's been brutal the last couple of weeks. And still, for whatever reason, drawing up plays, they were going to that 12 personnel. I think we see more of a widespread offense, and I think he's going to get a ton of touches in the middle of the field. I love that. I actually like him to find the end zone too at plus I think it's 250 right now. Could correct me if I'm wrong, but my primetime parlay over 3.5 field goals, Kincaid 4 receptions, and Terrell Bernard at 8+ tackles and assists. Normally I go with the sack this time, just because a lot of the game wreckers up front for the Bills aren't dressed because they're injured. Bernard has been an absolute beast for this Bills defense, especially since all the other injuries, especially Matt Milano. He has stepped up at linebacker. I think he's been awesome. So those props there at plus 410. The field goal prop, a little bit scary with the weather that we might see at Orchard Park, but it's a principal bet. The other one from a Bills side that I'd be looking at is Khalil Shakir, anytime touchdown, 10-1 right now. Even a little sprinkle at 40-1. He's a guy that I think they have to get more involved in the offense. He's there should be their slot receiver threat. He's a guy that needs to get going. And anytime they find him, he comes up with a big play. It's just he doesn't get the targets. And I honestly think with Knox gone, the middle of the field will all be with Shakir and all be with Kincaid.
That's great. I'm just pumped to hear his name and understand that he's a real guy. I drafted him 2 years ago in my dynasty league. He's been sitting there on my taxi squad for 2 years. Never hear anything about him, and maybe he's going to get there. I do see lock shop partner parlays are up. Ride with Dusty's there at plus 640 and plus 690 for that ride with Hus. Lightning puck line against the Sharks. Sens money line in New York against the Islanders. Wild money line in Philly, plus 690. So we get on there, and we're gonna ride with the Bucs tonight at plus 9.5. Should be a fun night to get in front. When does the World Series start?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
which is a classic baseball question, eh? When does the World Series start? It starts tomorrow. You guys can get to that tomorrow.
Tell you, everyone's fired up for hockey. Everyone's hyped for the start of the NBA season. NFL's in the middle of the swing, and you got the Rangers and the Diamondbacks in the World Series.
Yeah.
Just a hunch. Do we have an odd on this? Lowest watched World Series ever. All in on that. All in on that.
Hus, you probably got Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up right away, right? So just if you had to take one prop or one thing from this game to throw into a partner parlay, what would you want to get on the Kincaid stuff or?
Well, yeah. I'll take the over Kincaid, the yards. And as I say, if we wanted to get a bit better of a number for this one, I think the number that we've got, let me just say, I think it's 37.5. But it's plus, let's just see your player receiving yards. Kincaid's 37.5 at minus 159. Like, I'd love to put it up to 43.5 or 44.5 if we can get, closer to that even money, because as they say, once you're putting minus 159s in a parlay, it's hard to get it up. But throw me in on the Kincaid number on receiving yards. I'll leave it to you guys. If you do, as I say, I'm comfortable with adding 5 or 6 yards to this one to get a bit better of a number. But if we want to leave it at that, definitely like the over 37.5 yards and go Bucks. And let's just hopefully we've got another game. I mean, I don't want to see Pat, the droopy dog tomorrow in the lock shop. It's more fun if the Bills are competitive right now. The Bucks aren't going anywhere. So we'll look forward to that one. Early start with the Jets and Wings. A little bit of a fishy line, but we'll, as I say, maybe we'll fire something up for WST later on. I'll be in touch. But Kyle Connor Hellebuck, homecoming boys today. Always love those narratives. Over 3.5 shots for Kyle Connor. And we'll throw in a Connor goal as well at plus 134. Dusty, you have a good one. I guess you will be absent tomorrow.
I'll be listening. I'll be listening on the way down to Calgary. I got to drive down to Calgary. I'm doing that Bombers Stamps game tomorrow. Obviously some lineup switches on both sides of the ball there. So I've got a bunch of I've got a bunch of new guys that I have to learn for the final game of the regular season. So that's going to be great. But yeah, so you guys will hold down the fort tomorrow in the lock shop.
For that Bomber Calgary game tomorrow, the only thing you need to know is Brady Oliveira over 20 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
21 combined yards, minus 10,000. He gets to that, and then he's out of the game after achieving the 2,000-yard milestone. And how about that? Brady Oliveira, the nominee for the MOP. I know we talked about that before.
We got into a huge debate on our show today. It should be him or Chad Kelly. And it was fun.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're there at the bet. Well, that's funny. We talked about bets. Bets didn't even get the nominee in BC for MOP. It went into Vernon Adams, who was unanimous. And Betts wasn't even unanimous for the top Canadian on that team.
Yeah.
I'd love to know who the other guy that got a vote
I think
was.
somebody probably threw a vote to Sean White because he's had one of the greatest kicking seasons of all time.
Yeah.
So that's probably like
he's a lock for the special teams award.
Yeah, he's going to win special teams. So I think that's probably what it was. And then the defensive player, somebody voted for Gary Peters, who had a pretty nice year at corner. So anyway, Hus, we'll let you go. Pat and I will lock up a lock shop partner parlay for this Thursday nighter and have fun with the show tomorrow, man.
Yeah, you got it. WSTers jump on about 7 minutes. We'll fire up Winnipeg Sports Talk. We've got a ton of audio from Mark Chipman. Sit down with Darren Drager. We'll go through that. We'll discuss it. Brandon Rowicki, Scott Billick as well. The latest from Detroit before this 6 o'clock start tonight. Fellas, great chatting with you as always. Patty, Jake, we'll see you tomorrow for another big Friday in the lock shop. Dusty, have a safe trip to Calgary, man.
See you later, man. There you go. That is Hus. We'll just knock him out of there. We'll continue rolling here on this shot. And then I got a Fantasy Football 5. Pulled off a blockbuster in one of my fantasy leagues today, so I'm pretty excited about that. Pat, what do you want to do for a lock shot? One of the things, and we're still waiting, it's going to be a true game time decision on Vita Vea in the middle of that Bucks defensive line. So I do like James Cook's over 50.5. He's covered that number each of the last 2 games. And if they're missing a huge run stopper, or even if a run stopper who had to be labeled as, true game time decision, I think I do like Cooks to get over that 50.5 tonight. So I wouldn't mind throwing that into a parlay. What else are you looking at?
Obviously I said my favorites were the Kincaids. We're not going to throw a Khalil Shakir touchdown into that parlay. I do like James Cook as well, over 50. I kind of like Josh Allen rushing yards over 21.5. One of the big narratives around the Buffalo media right now is the fact that Josh Allen, I talked about it, it seems like his run and gun style of play has almost been coached out of him. And I do feel like maybe he's going to get a little more leash here. Maybe he's going to be able to use his legs. Maybe they allow him to create, or they create some designed runs for him.
Yeah, because he's been under 20, I think, the last 3 games or something like that, right? So
yes, he has. So I really think that they're going to maybe unlock that and get him back to running the ball a little bit more, allowing him to be Josh Allen. That's one there that I would look at. If we're looking at from a Bucks perspective, I actually haven't even really looked at anything else for the Bucks. Yeah. Is there anything on the Bucks side?
No, I went through the Bucks side too, and I'm going to be with you guys on the Bucks here plus 9.5. And how I kind of broke it down is the 2 best teams they played so far this year were Detroit and Philly, and they lost both those games by 14 points. However, Buffalo isn't on that same level right now, I don't think, as Detroit or Philly. So with the way things are going for the Bills, it's I hate the fact that this line, I mean, I guess we're on the Bucs side of it, so I like getting the extra point compared to where it was yesterday. But I hate the fact that so much money's coming in on the Bills here. That's moving the line. Strange to me, but I do think the Bucs are the play on that side. But as far as player props go on the Bucs side, there really wasn't anything that moved the needle too much for me. Although, what did Hus bring up Rashawn Johnson in receiving yards? I mean, something we could look at too, because if you like Kincaid and he gets on Johnson and I'm on Cooks, although you like Josh Allen too, are we worried about taking both the quarterback and the running back over their yards?
That could be an issue. That definitely could be an issue. I feel like we're kind of, digging into the same there.
But that being said, there's really no third piece taking carries from either of those 2 guys, right?
The only thing is in the red zone, they've really liked using Latavius Murray.
Yeah, that's true.
But his prop's only at 24.5. Like, and also with the thing with Allen, couple of scrambles here and there, he could hit that 21.5, no problem. Mind you, he hasn't been taking those chances. He hasn't been, getting outside of the pocket and running for those first downs. Trends and what has happened over the last couple of weeks indicate that he won't go over that 21.5. But what I'm trying to say here is because he hasn't done that and the offense hasn't looked good. And when you look at this offense, when they were putting up big points, not just this year, last year, the previous years, it's when he was not just leading them in passing yards, but almost even leading them in rushing yards as well. So do I think he's going to be the old Josh Allen and run through guys, stiff arm guys, diving, leaping for first downs? No. But this is a big game for the Bills. This is a prove it game to prove they're not frauds, to prove that something's not wrong with this team. I feel like something's got to give here. I feel pretty confident on that 21.5. So Kincaid's my favorites. So
let's go Kincaid. Let's go Cooks, and let's go Allen. Like if they're going, I think there's a case to be made here. The Buffalo Bills could really control the ball on the ground today against this Tampa Bay Bucs team. So let's go Josh Allen over was it 21 at 20.5 or whatever it was?
21.5.
Yeah, we can even knock Cooks down if we wanted. If the 50.5, if you feel better about it, like 44.5 or something along those lines. And then,
I mean, I feel pretty good about the 50 to be quite honest, but if we want to play it a little safer and go 45.5, we could do that too.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go Cooks over 45.5. Let's go Josh Allen over the original number. And then Kincaid was receiving yards over the original number. And that'll be a lock shop partner parlay.
Beautiful. Works
all right, man. I'm going to dive into the Fantasy Football 5. You have fun with Hus and the boys tomorrow on the Lock Shop.
I will. Thanks, and safe travels.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, let's get to it. Fantasy Football 5, and it will be a brief 5 today. We do have 2 guys in goalie coming up right away here at Edmonton Sports Talk. I did pull the trigger on a blockbuster in my 16-man league, though. I want to get into that. I want your thoughts on it. Aaron Jones is gone. No longer a member of Nielsen's Annihilators. He has been moved. So we'll get into that. I see a Bootski already in with a question. We'll get to that. If you have any fantasy questions, now's the time. 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. And, we'll see how it plays out tonight. As far as starts tonight, obviously Josh Allen, you're starting. Mike Evans, you're starting. Johnson, you're starting. Godwin's been dealing with a neck issue. You have to play a hunch on that one and see which way you go on it. Kincaid is startable. James Cooks is startable. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is startable, and in certain situations, you'd probably be looking at Gabe Davis as well. Bootski's asking, who would you start this week? Joe Burrow versus the 49ers or C.J. Stroud versus the Panthers? My answer to that one would be C.J. Stroud versus the Panthers, and I just traded for C.J. Stroud in my one league. This was the deal. It has not been approved yet by the commish, but I think it will be. I have traded Amari. This is that team that I've been a disaster in. We're 1-6 on the year. Still have some pretty nice pieces. It's a keeper league for next year. So Amari Cooper, who I was not going to be keeping. I've got Addison. I've got T. Higgins. I've got CeeDee Lamb. I'm not keeping Amari Cooper. He's gone. Aaron Jones, I might have considered. It's been a tough year for Aaron Jones. Maybe there's still something good going on there. And then the guy just needed a quarterback, so I threw Badgett back the other way in Chicago. So Amari Cooper, Aaron Jones, and Badgett for C.J. Stroud, a first-rounder and a second-rounder. I feel pretty good about that. I think I've done well as the rebuilding continues. I've now got 2 firsts, 3 seconds, and a keeper list that is probably C.J. Stroud, Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, and Addison. And I've still got a couple pieces I can move. So, you know what? Sometimes it sucks. It sucks that you're losing, but if in a keeper league, if you got some decent pieces, it's very much fun dismantling a team. And that's what I've got going on right now. The rookie's in says, I have a very important question. How come there was no prize for winning the Nielsen Show Fantasy League last year? I was super pumped, and that was my first ever fantasy league. The rookie has to get back to me on that one. I'll track something down for you. Big Uke says, do I start Rice versus Denver or Devonta versus Washington? Washington gives up more points to wide receivers. Rice is projected for more. What say you? I would probably go Smith. I'd probably go Smith in that one. But thank you very much for the questions. Fantasy Football 5 today and every day. Brought to you by our great partners, Century Casino. Join Lieutenant Eric tonight for the Bills and the Bucks. The Oilers and Rangers will also be on as well tonight. So it'll be a busy night at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. He'll also be there on Monday, and then the following Thursday, and then the following Monday after that for the entire season. Coming up next, we got lots to discuss. Bouchard bumped down, and sports betting causing an issue in the National Hockey League. We'll get into that on Two Guys and a Goalie. Gager will be in studio. Cass is already connected. He's ready to go. Make sure autoplay is on. That'll take right over to Two Guys, and we'll set up the Oilers and Rangers for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in to Lock Shop and the Fantasy Football 5.